Okay, welcome. This is DJ Gary. Might have a little glitchy problem here. It's probably the Wi-Fi, but we're reacting to Teddy Riley, uh, what he believes the reason Quincy Jones and Michael Jackson stopped working together. In this video, particularly, I'm going to stop it at times in order to give my perspective and give pretty much the truth. And then after that, um, we're going to dive a little bit into Teddy Riley, what I think is kind of like far fetched. And then we're going to um, end it, and that'll be that. But don't forget to like this video, comment, subscribe. All right, here we go.
The biggest artist on the planet. Thriller was the biggest album of all time. Bad was a close second. Quincy Jones was 3 albums deep, from Off the Wall, Thriller, and then Bad. Yes, indeed. The story I heard was that Michael Jackson started sneaking into the studio and producing records on his own. When Quincy found out about that, he said, "We're done."
No,
That's the story I heard from someone very close to the situation.
I don't think Quincy quit because of that. Quincy quit because he was tired.
Okay.
And Michael was cool with it. And Quincy and Uncle Mike were the ones who put my name in that hat, along with Clarence Avon.
Okay, so basically, I'm gonna stop right there, and I'm gonna say Michael Jackson definitely was recording music by himself without Quincy Jones' knowledge. Um, and in fact, Michael Jackson, uh, he did a bunch of songs like, um, and Michael Jackson, here's the thing, Michael Jackson didn't know he was tied to Quincy Jones for another album. So Quincy could be a producer of another album. Michael Jackson thought that it was Off the Wall, E.T., and Thriller. That was it. Those were the 3 projects that Michael Jackson thought that was it between him and Quincy Jones. So Michael Jackson was recording material with a host of people, different musicians. I did a video on Roger Troutman. I just made that unprivate. Go check that out. But Michael Jackson was, in fact, recording music. And, you know, the musicians Michael Jackson employed was, John Barnes, Bill Bottrell, and a couple of others. Uh, and they were working on the songs. And once Michael Jackson got word that the contract with Quincy wasn't over, that's when uh, the problems begin. And see, that's because Quincy's like, oh, you're making this album without me, you know, uh, you know, and this is where the clash began. That's when uh, Michael Jackson had to bull, kind of like really stick his head out on the Bad album. That's why there's more tracks written by him. The Bad album is more Michael Jackson. The the Off the Wall album was uh, a thing between Quincy, Rod Tipperton, and Michael Jackson. Thriller was Rod Tipperton again, Total, the rock group Total, uh, Quincy, then Michael. And, Bad was totally Michael Jackson. He written all the songs, and the producing team that Michael Jackson recruited from when he was working at Havenhurst, you know, between about end of '83 or '83 to like '85, they subsequently uh, the work was demolished. So in other words, because of Quincy, their acknowledgement was pretty much uh, really nowhere to be found for contributions. Recipes John Barnes. And so essentially, the fighting began with Quincy and Michael. Quincy did not like Smooth Criminal. He hated that song, and Michael Jackson had to fight for it. So let's continue.
Godfather.
When I left Gene, I called Quincy and I called Mike and I said, I'm coming to California. I don't know what to do, but I want to come out and see, if I can make a deal. But that didn't transpire. What transpired was Quincy said, Clarence is going to call you. I already knew when I got there, I was going to go be with Mike because, Mike was like, man, don't worry about it. I got you. This is what we're going to do. We're going to try and do this here. And I went to see him. I went to see Al Taylor, who was the president of MCA Records. They had a meeting with me. But that deal was after I met with Clarence. And Clarence, he started asking me questions, and fell asleep on me. And then I'm talking to him, and I stopped talking because I seen him sleeping. I was like, oh, God. He said, keep talking. I hear you. I hear everything you say. And it's the first time somebody of his stature ever cursed at me. Because he said...
I also believe for the Bad album, I think Michael Jackson was just becoming increasingly hard to work with because he's like, this is my project. You had a good run in my first two albums. I'll let you kind of like have your way. We kind of worked it 50-50. With Rod and all that. But I think Bad album is where Michael Jackson said, "Hey, I'm taking the lead." Michael Jackson. If you listen to that project, Michael Jackson is like he's sort of like lead producer. Michael Quincy Jones, like I said, he had to take part. He took parts out of certain songs Michael Jackson already had, re-recorded them with his musicians and all that. So, there was it was just the fighting had begun. Quincy, had an attitude of how dare you, and this and that, and this is one of the reasons why Quincy Jones is bitter to this day, is because Michael Jackson, the Bad Sessions wasn't the happiest. What they portray in Bad 25 and all that, it wasn't that. They when it wasn't a father and son type relationship anymore. It became it became, oh, this is a partnership. The the love was not 100%. And what people need to understand, Quincy Jones basically, volunteered, you know, to work with Michael, from the beginning. And so, I think Michael Jackson thought like, hey, you know, Quincy would, you know, um, produce the music and he'll produce the vocals, but Michael Jackson ideas was increasingly being pretty much shot down, and that was hurtful to Michael Jackson. You know, he's trying to get his creativity out.
He's all the questions he asked, and he said at the end of the night, go home. You're gonna get a phone call. Just be home to answer that phone call. He got my number and everything, and I said, can you tell me who's gonna call? He said, motherfucker, I told you to go home and I said, okay, I'm going home. But I didn't go right home because I had that meeting. And I think it was Clarence that made them do this deal with me, MCA, and then I re-signed Guy. They had all of the legalities to get us off of.
And kind of get back on subject with Quincy. I hope I'm not forgetting. Also, Michael Jackson. Some people. You have some people who's like maybe like 50 years older than me, and they're like, "Oh, Quincy Jones produced Heartbreak Hotel." No, 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 no. Quincy Jones had nothing to do with Heartbreak Hotel. That was clearly Michael Jackson. The credits shows it. Michael Jackson was very instrumental in the Jacksons albums along with Randy Jackson when putting material together. But Heartbreak Hotel was Michael Jackson's baby, okay, from the Triumph album. If it wasn't for Heartbreak Hotel, Thriller would not be work. Thriller would not be here.
Off of Uptown Records, and they would come to Future Records, which was my label. MCA gave me a huge deal, 7 figures or something like that, and I just
Okay.
And I lived in that. It was the hotel. I don't know if it was Teaneck Marriott, and right next to it is like those condos with the elevators to take you to your bedroom. And I moved into one. I think either Biggie was living in or one of them, and we stayed there for a minute until I got with Keith and came back from meeting with them, and I did Make You Sweat for Keith. It was a remix. Keith was like, I'm gonna pay you $30,000 for it. I was like, oh wow. Then when I was in LA, I got a call from Benny Medina. And when Benny Medina called me, he said, I got this record. Now, mind you, the manifestation was before that. And it's so crazy. I manifest.
I kind of want to touch on something too. Teddy Riley is a hell of a producer, but I find he kind of caps a little bit. Like he be capping a little bit. Now, when I say that is what I'm saying is he essentially stated in a podcast, I read the transcript that he was actually tapped it to work on the Bad album. But what happened was, this is what Teddy Riley claimed. But what happened was, um, this was the first time supposedly he was going to work for Michael Jackson. He was supposed to be on the Bad album. But his manager at the time, Gene Griffin, who was sort of like this gangster Suge Knight, essentially told Teddy Riley, "No, we're not working with Michael. No, we're not working." But this is what I find odd about it. Teddy Riley had no big releases at all. So, you know, let's say this is 86. What does he have out, uh, that screams, you know, that makes Michael Jackson scream, "Oh, I want to work with you." I just, because My Prerogative wasn't even out. Um, Keep Sweat album wasn't out yet. That came after Michael's. My Prerogative came after Michael's. Um, uh, Most of Teddy Riley big production things were after Michael Jackson's Bad album. And I'm saying, and the Guy album was like 88. So I'm saying to myself, how is it that Teddy Riley is tapped to work with Michael Jackson, but he really has nothing to show for it, right? Besides what the show, with Dougie Fresh and Slick Rick. What else he got? He pretty much doesn't have anything to show for it. So it kind of puzzles me. How could he work on the Bad album, have a placement on the Bad album, but he's it just doesn't make any sense. That's all I'm saying.
On it. Next thing you know, I get a call from Benny Medina. Benny Medina's like, "Yo, I got this song. I need you to remix. I've been looking." And I said, "So what you want me to do? I just seen this on MTV. Is it out?" He said, "Yeah, I want you to do the remix." He said, "You're not interested?" I said, "Yes, I am." I said, "When I get back, I'll start working on it." He's, whatever I need. He said, "I'm gonna send it over you. I'm gonna send everything to you, and you'll have it. You want us to send it straight to the studio?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "What studio you working on?" We went to Soundtracks on 21st Street. So I got the song, I got everything, and then he circled back and called me because he thought I really wasn't interested by how I was talking. But I was just kind of puzzled, I didn't know what I was getting paid. I thought I was going to get $10,000. He called back and said, "I'm paying you $75,000. When can you get this finished?" Do you know when I got off that phone? I was jumping on the bed like I was a little kid. I was like, "Yeah, put that with that." And then Keith was like, "Come back. I got a mix from," and that was the room that Q-Tip,
Tribe Called Quest.
is that you hear me cutting up. Hey, hey. Benny Medina Savage. So I didn't have no studio to work in for his stuff, so I asked Q-Tip, could he rent me his room? I'll pay his rent and stuff. And my attorney took care of all of that stuff, and accountant. And I did a ton of tracks for Michael, working on Remember the Time, the tracks for that. And I did Joy. That was for Michael, but it wound up going to Blackstreet. But
right. So Michael called you to work on the Dangerous album.
Mm-hmm.
He spent $10 million working on that album. By the time you showed up, there was already 50 songs already recorded.
Yes, it was a lot of songs.
And what people have to remember, the Dangerous album, Michael Jackson was pretty much in production for the Dangerous album since like 1989. Right after the Bad tour, he pretty much went straight to work on the next record. So with saying all that, and that's the end of this video. Um, but also remember Teddy Riley is the same person that worked on impersonation tracks for Sony Records and putting them out to the public. And claiming it's Michael Jackson tracks when it was really impersonators. This is 2010. Teddy Riley sweared up and down it was Michael Jackson. You could go listen to the tracks yourself. The name of it is called Monster. There's another one called Keep Your Head Up. There's another one called Breaking News. Sounds nothing like Michael Jackson, but Teddy Riley swore before us that this was, in fact, this was in fact Michael Jackson when it wasn't. So all I'm saying is Teddy Riley do be capping sometimes. So all right, I'm out, y'all. Like the video, comment, subscribe.